Oh, the light is too strong. There we go. Something a little more. There's a little more ambiance.
If I come outside, I'm not.
Yeah, please come over.
No, I'm saying I don't want to be in.
Oh, okay, got it. Good morning. It is May 29, 2023. It is a little after 3 a.m. and we are beginning this program for the Ascension of Baha'u'llah. All praise, O my God, be to thee, who art the source of all glory and majesty, of greatness and honor, of sovereignty and dominion, of loftiness and grace, of awe and power. Whomsoever thou willest, thou causest to draw nigh unto the most great ocean, and on whomsoever thou desirest, thou conferrest the honor of recognizing thy most ancient name. Of all who are in heaven and on earth, none can withstand the operation of thy sovereign will. From all eternity, thou didst rule the entire creation, and thou wilt continue forevermore to exercise thy dominion over all created things. There is none other God but thee, the Almighty, the most exalted, the all-powerful, the all-wise. Illumine, O Lord, the faces of thy servants, that they may behold thee, and cleanse their hearts, that they may turn unto the court of thy heavenly favors, and recognize him who is manifestation of thyself, and the dayspring of thine essence. Verily, thou art the Lord of all worlds. There is no God but thee, the unconstrained, the all-subduing. From the Book of the Covenant, Kitab al-Ad. Although the realm of glory hath none of the vanities of the world, yet within the treasury of trust and resignation we bequeathed to our heirs an excellent and priceless heritage. Earthly treasures we have not bequeathed, nor have we added such cares as they entail. By God, in earthly riches fear is hidden, and peril is concealed. Consider ye, and call to mind that which the All-Merciful hath revealed in the Quran. Woe betide every slanderer and defamer, him that layeth up riches and counteth them. Fleeting are the riches of the world. All that perisheth and changeth is not, and hath ever been worthy of attention, except to a recognized measure. The aim of this wronged one in sustaining woes and tribulations, in revealing the holy verses, and in demonstrating proofs, hath been not but to quench the flame of hate and enmity, that the horizon of the hearts of men may be illumined with the light of concord, and attain real peace and tranquility. From the dawning place of the divine tablet, the day star of this utterance shineth resplendent, and it behooveth every one to fix his gaze upon it. We exhort you, O peoples of the world, to observe that which will elevate your station. Hold fast to the fear of God and firmly adhere to what is right. Verily I say, the tongue is for mentioning what is good, defile it not with unseemly talk. God hath forgiven what is past. Henceforward, Everyone should utter that which is meet and seemly, and should refrain from slander, abuse, and whatever causeth sadness on men. Lofty is the station of man. Not long ago, this exalted word streamed forth from the treasury of our pen of glory. Great and blessed is this day, the day in which all that lay latent in man hath been and will be made manifest. Lofty is the station of man, were he to hold fast to righteousness and truth, and to remain firm and steadfast in the cause. In the eyes of the All-Merciful, a true man appeareth even as a firmament. Its sun and moon are his sight and hearing, and his shining and resplendent character its stars. His is the loftiest station, and his influence educateth the world of being. Every receptive soul who hath in this day inhaled the fragrance of his garment and hath with a pure heart set his faith towards the all-glorious horizon is reckoned among the people of Baha in the Crimson Book. Grasp ye in my name the chalice of my living kindness. Drink then your fill in my glorious and wondrous remembrance. O ye that dwell on earth, the religion of God is for love and unity. Make it not the cause of enmity or dissension. In the eyes of men of insight and the beholders of the most sublime vision, whatsoever are the effective means for safeguarding and promoting the happiness and welfare of the children of men have already been revealed by the pen of glory. But the foolish ones of the earth, being nurtured in evil passions and desires, have remained heedless of the consummate wisdom of him who is, in truth, the all-wise, while their words and deeds are prompted by idle fancies and vain imaginings. O ye, the loved ones and the trustees of God, kings are the manifestations of the power and the daysprings of the might and riches of God. Pray ye on their behalf. He hath invested them with the rulership of the earth, and hath singled out the hearts of men as his own domain. Conflict and contention are categorically forbidden in his book. This is the decree of God in his most great revelation. It is divinely prescribed from annulment, and is invested by him with the splendor of his confirmation. Verily, he is the all-knowing, the all-wise. It is incumbent upon everyone to aid those daysprings of authority and sources of command who are adorned with the ornament of equity and justice. Blessed are the rulers and the learned among the people of Baha. They are my trustees among my servants, and the manifestations of my commandments amidst my people. Upon them rest my glory, my blessings, and my grace, which have pervaded the world of being. In this connection, the utterances revealed in the Kitab Aqdas are such that from the horizon of their words, the light of divine grace shineth luminous and resplendent. Amira, can you read this, please? You can unmute, yeah. Please read.
O ye, my
You're
branches.
muted.
O ye, my branches. A mighty force, a consummate power layeth concealed in the word of being. Fix your gaze upon it, and upon its unifying influence, and not upon the differences which appear from it. The will of the divine testator is this. It is incumbent upon the Ahsan, the Afnan, and my kindred to turn one and all their faces towards the most mighty branch. Consider that which we have revealed in our most holy book. When the ocean of my presence hath ebbed and the book of my revelation is ended, turn your faces towards him whom God hath purposed, who hath branched from this ancient root. The object of the sacred verse is none except the most mighty branch, Abdu'l-Baha. Thus have we graciously revealed unto you our potent will, and I am verily the gracious, the all-bountiful. Verily God hath ordained the station of the greater branch, Mirza Muhammad Ali, to be beneath that of the most great branch, Abdu'l-Baha. He is in truth the ordainer, the all-wise. We have chosen the greater after the most great, as decreed by him who is the all-knowing, the all-informed. It is enjoined upon everyone to manifest love towards the Aqsan, but God has not granted them any right to the property of others. O ye my Aqsan, my Afnan, and my kindred, we exhort you to fear God, to perform praiseworthy deeds, and to do which is meet and seemly, and serveth to exalt your station. Verily I say, fear of God is the greatest commander that can render the cause of God victorious, and the hosts which best befit this commander have ever been and are an upright character and pure and goodly deeds. Say, O servants, let not the means of order be made the cause of confusion, and the instrument of union and occasion for discord. We fain would hope that the people of Baha may be guided by the blessed words, say all things are of God. This exalted utterance is like unto water for quenching the fire of hate and enmity, which smouldereth within the hearts and breasts of men. By this single utterance, contending peoples and kindreds will attain the light of true unity. Verily he speaketh the truth and leadeth the way. He is the all-powerful, the exalted, the gracious. It is incumbent upon everyone to show courtesy to and have regard for the Aqsan, that thereby the cause of God may be glorified and his word exalted. This injunction has time and again been mentioned and recorded in the Holy Writ. Well is it with him who is enabled to achieve that which the ordainer, the Ancient of Days, hath prescribed for him. Ye are bidden moreover to respect the members of the holy household, the Afnan and the kindred. We further admonish you to serve all nations and to strive for the betterment of the world. That which is conducive to the regeneration of the world and the salvation of the peoples and kindreds of the earth hath been sent down from the heaven of the utterance of him who is the desire of the word. Give ye a hearing ear to the counsels of the pen of glory. Better is this for you than all that is on the earth. Unto this beareth witness my glorious and wondrous book.
Jeremiah, would you like to read? Ascension of Baha'u'llah from God Passes By.
Well nigh half a century had passed since the inception of the faith. Cradled in adversity, deprived in its infancy of its herald and leader, it had been raised from the dust in which a hostile despot had thrown it by its second and greatest luminary who, despite successive banishments, had in less than half a century succeeded in rehabilitating its fortunes, in proclaiming its message, in enacting its laws and ordinances, in formulating its principles, and in ordaining its institutions. And it had just begun to enjoy the sunshine of a prosperity never previously experienced. when suddenly it was robbed of its author by the hand of destiny. Its followers were plunged into sorrow and consternation. Its repudiators found their declining hopes revived, and its adversaries, political as well as ecclesiastical, begun to take heart again. Already in 9 months before his ascension, Baha'u'llah, as attested by Abdul Baha, had voiced his desire to depart from this world. From that time onward, it became increasingly evident from the tone of his remarks to those who attained his presence that the close of his earthly life was approaching, though he refrained from mentioning it openly to anyone. On the night preceding the 11th of Shawwal, 1309 AH, May 8, 1892, he contracted a slight fever, which, though it mounted the following day, soon after subsided. He continued to grant interviews to certain of the friends and pilgrims, but it soon became evident that he was not well. His fever returned in a more acute form than before. His general condition grew steadily worse. Complications ensued, which at last culminated in his ascension. At the hour of dawn on the 2nd of Zikadebe, 1309 AH, 8 hours after sunset in the 75th year of his age, his spirit, at long last released from the toils of life, crowded with tribulations, had winged its flight to his other dominions, dominions whereon the eyes of the people of names have never fallen, into which the luminous maid, clad in white, had bidden him hasten, as described by himself in the La Ruya tablet of vision, revealed 19 years previously on the anniversary of the birth of his forerunner. 6 days before he passed away, he summoned to his presence, as he lay in bed leaning against one of his sons, the entire company of believers, including several pilgrims who had assembled in the mansion for what proved to be their last audience with him. I am well pleased with you all. He gently and affectionately addressed the weeping crowd that gathered about him. Ye have rendered many services and been very assiduous in your labors. Ye have come here every morning and every evening. May God assist you to remain united. May he aid you to exalt the cause of the Lord of Being. To the women, including members of his own family, gathered at his bedside, he addressed similar words of encouragement, definitely assuring them that in a document entrusted by him who is the most great branch, he had commended them all to his care. The news of his ascension was instantly communicated to Sultan Abdul Hamid in a telegram which began with words, "The son of Baha has said," and in which the monarch was advised of the intention of interring the sacred remains within the precincts of the mansion, an arrangement to which he readily assented. Baha'u'llah was accordingly laid to rest in the northernmost room of the house which served as the dwelling place for his son-in-law, the most northerly of the three houses lying to the west of and adjacent to the mansion. His interment took place shortly after sunset on the very day of his ascension. The inconsolable Nabil, who had had the privilege of a private audience with Baha'u'llah during the days of his illness, whom Abdu'l-Baha had chosen to select those passages which constitute the text of the Tablet of Visitation, now recited in the most holy tomb, and who, in his uncontrollable grief, drowned himself in the sea shortly after the passing of his beloved, thus describes the agony of those days. Methinks the spiritual commotion set up in the world of death hath caused all the worlds of God to tremble. My inner and outer tongue are powerless to portray the condition we were in. In the midst of the prevailing confusion, a multitude of inhabitants of Akka and the neighboring villages that had thronged the fields surrounding the mansion could be seen weeping, beating upon their heads, and crying aloud their grief. For a full week, a vast number of mourners, rich or alike, tarried to grieve with the bereaved family, partaking day and night of the food that was lavishly dispensed by its members. Notables among whom were numbered Shia, Sunnis, Christians, Jews, Druids, as well as poets, ulamas, and government officials all joined in lamenting the loss and in magnifying the virtues and greatness of Baha'u'llah, many of them paying to him their written tributes in verse and in prose, in both Arabic and Turkish. From cities as far afield as Damascus, Aleppo, Beirut, and Cairo, similar tributes were received. These glowing testimonials were, without exception, submitted to Abdu'l-Baha, who now represented the cause of the departed leader, and whose praises were often mingled in these eulogies with the homage paid to his father. And yet these elusive manifestations of sorrow and expressions of praise and of admiration, which the Ascension of Baha'u'llah had spontaneously evoked among the unbelievers in the Holy Land and in the adjoining countries, were but a drop when compared to the ocean of grief and the innumerable evidences of unbounded devotion which, at the hour of the setting of the Sun of Truth, poured forth from the hearts of the countless thousands who had espoused his cause and were determined to carry aloft its banner in Persia, India, Russia, Iraq, Turkey, Palestine, Egypt, and Syria. With the ascension of Baha'u'llah draws to a close a period which in many ways is unparalleled in the world's religious history. The first century of the Baha'i era had by now run half of its course, an epoch unsurpassed in its sublimity, its fecundity, and duration by any previous dispensation, and characterized, except for a short interval of 3 years, by half a century of continuous and characterized, except for a short interval of 3 years, by half a century of continuous and progressive revelation had terminated. The message proclaimed by the Bab had yielded its golden fruit. The most momentous, though not the most spectacular phase of the heroic age had ended. The Sun of Truth, the world's greatest luminary, had risen, and the Shia of Tehran had broken through the clouds which enveloped it in Baghdad, had suffered a momentary eclipse while mounting to its zenith in Adrianople, and had set finally in Akka, never to reappear ere the lapse of a full millennium. God's newborn faith, the signature of all past dispensations, had been fully and unreservedly proclaimed. The prophecies announcing its advent have been remarkably fulfilled. Its fundamental laws and cardinal principles, the warp and woof of a fabric of its future world order have been clearly enunciated. Its organic relation to and its attitude towards the religious systems which preceded it have been unmistakably defined. The primary institutions within which an embryonic world order was destined to mature have been unassailably established. The covenant destined to safeguard the unity and integrity of its world-embracing system had been irrevocably bequeathed to posterity. The promise of the unification of the whole human race, of the inauguration of the most great peace, of the unfoldment of a world civilization have been incontestably given. Dire warnings foreshadowing catastrophes destined to befall kings, ecclesiastics, governments, and peoples as a prelude to so glorious a consummation have been repeatedly uttered. The significant summons of the chief magistrates of the New World, forerunner of the mission with which the North American continent was to be later invested, have been issued. The initial contact with a nation, descendant of whose royal house was to espouse its cause ere the expiry of the first Baha'i century had been established. The original impulse which, in the course of its successive decades, has conferred and will continue to confer in the years to come inestimable benefits of both spiritual and institutional significance upon God's holy mountain, overlooking the most great prison, have been imparted. And finally, the first banners of spiritual conquest, which, ere the termination of that century, was to embrace no less than 60 countries of both the eastern and western hemispheres, have been triumphantly planted. Can someone else read?
We verily, wrote Baha'u'llah, surveying in the evening of his life from his most great prison the entire range of this vast and weighty revelation, have not fallen short of our duty to exhort men and to deliver that whereunto I was bidden by God the Almighty, the All-Praised. Is there any excuse, he further has stated, left for anyone in this revelation? No, by God, the Lord of the mighty throne. My signs have encompassed the earth, and my power enveloped all mankind. In the name of God, the Most High, lauded and glorified art thou, Lord God omnipotent. Thou before whose wisdom the wise falleth short and faileth, before whose knowledge the learned confesseth his ignorance, before whose might the strong waxeth weak, before whose wealth the rich testify to his poverty, before whose light the enlightened is lost in darkness, toward the shrine of whose knowledge turneth the essence of all understanding, and around the sanctuary of whose presence circleth the souls of all mankind. How then can I sing and tell of thine essence, which the wisdom of the wise and the learning of the learned have failed to comprehend? Inasmuch as no man can sing that which he understandeth not, nor recount that unto which he cannot attain. whilst thou hast been from everlasting the inaccessible, the unsearchable. Powerless though I be to raise to the heavens of thy glory, and soar in the realms of thy knowledge, I can but recount thy tokens that tell of thy glorious handiwork. By thy glory, O beloved of all hearts, thou that alone canst still the pangs of yearning for thee. Though all the dwellers of heaven and earth unite to glorify the least of thy signs, wherein and whereby thou hast revealed thyself, yet would they fail how much more to praise thy holy word, the creator of all thy tokens. All praise and glory be to thee, thou of whom all things have testified, that thou art one and there is none other God but thee, who hast been from everlasting exalted above all peer or likeness, and to everlasting shalt remain the same. All kings are but thy servants, and all beings visible and invisible, as naught before thee. There is none other God but thee, the gracious, the powerful, the most high.
Surah Qasr. He it is who abideth forever in the realm of glory. The cause of God hath come down upon the clouds of utterance, while they that have joined partners with him are afflicted with a sore torment. The host of divine revelation, bearing the banners of celestial inspiration, have descended from the heaven of his tablet in the name of God the Almighty, the most powerful, and the faithful rejoice in his victory and dominion, while the deniers are filled with dismay. O people, do ye flee from the mercy of God, after it hath pervaded all that is in the heavens and on the earth? Barter not away that mercy wherewith God hath favored you, nor withhold yourselves therefrom, for they that turn away are in grievous loss. The mercy of God is like unto the verses that are sent down from one same heaven. The true believers quaff therefrom the wine of everlasting life, while the ungodly drink the scalding draught. And whensoever the verses of God are rehearsed unto them, the fire of hatred is kindled in their breasts. Thus do they barter away the bounty that God hath bestowed upon them, and are reckoned among the heedless. Strive, O people, to enter beneath the sheltering shadow of the word of God. Quaff then from it choice wine of inner meaning and explanation, for it is the repository of the living waters of the All-Glorious, and hath appeared from the horizon of the will of the All-Merciful with matchless splendor. Say, out of this most great ocean there hath branched the pre-existent sea, blessed the one that hath attained and found repose upon its shores. There hath branched from the Sidratul Muntaha this sacred and glorious being, this branch of holiness. Well is it with him that hath sought his shelter and abideth beneath his shadow. Verily the limb of the law of God hath sprung forth from this root which God hath firmly implanted in the ground of his will, and whose branch hath been so uplifted as to encompass the whole of creation. Magnified be he, therefore, for this sublime, this blessed, this mighty, this exalted handiwork. Draw nigh unto him, O people, and taste the fruits of wisdom and knowledge that have proceeded from him, who is the Almighty, the All-knowing. Whoso hath failed to taste thereof is deprived of God's bounty, though he partake of all that the earth can produce, could ye but perceive it. A word hath, as a token of our grace, gone forth from the most great tablet, a word which God hath adorned with the ornament of his own self, and made it sovereign over the earth and all that is therein, and a sign of his greatness and power among his people, that all may glorify thereby their Lord, the Almighty, the All-powerful, the All-wise, and extol the praise of their Creator and the sanctity of the soul of God, that holdeth sway over all created things. This verily is none other than a word sent down by him, who is the all-knowing, the Ancient of Days. Render thanks unto God, O people, for his appearance, for verily he is the most great favour unto you, the most perfect bounty upon you, and through him every mouldering bone is quickened. Whoso turneth towards him hath turned towards God, and whoso turneth away from him hath turned away from my beauty, hath repudiated my proof, and transgressed against me. He is the trust of God amongst you, his charge within you, his manifestation unto you, and his appearance among his favoured servants. Thus was I bidden to deliver unto you the message of God your Creator, and I have fulfilled that whereunto I was bidden. Unto this bear witness God, and his angels, and his messengers, and his sanctified servants. Inhale then the sweet savours of paradise from its roses, and be not of them that are deprived. Hasten to win your share of the grace which God hath bestowed upon you, and suffer not yourselves to be veiled therefrom. We have sent him down in the form of a human temple. Blessed and sanctified be God, who createth whatsoever he willeth through his inviolable, his infallible decree. They who deprive themselves of the shadow of the branch are lost in the wilderness of error, are consumed by the heat of worldly desires, and are of those who will assuredly perish. O people, hasten to enter beneath the shadow of God, that it may shield you from the blazing heat of this day, wherein none shall find shelter or refuge save under the shadow of his name, the ever-forgiving, the most compassionate. Attire yourselves, O people, with the raiment of certitude, that it may protect you from the darts of idle fancy and vain imaginings, and that you may be numbered with the faithful in these days, days wherein none may attain certitude, nor achieve constancy in the cause of God, save by renouncing that which is carrion amongst men, and by turning towards this hallowed and refulgent beauty. O people, will ye take a false deity for your helper rather than God? Will you follow the most great idol before your Lord, the Almighty, the most powerful? Forsake their mention, O people, and seize the cup of life in the name of your Lord, the All-merciful. By the righteousness of God, a single drop from this cup quickeneth all humankind, could ye but know it. Say, none shall be immune in this day from God's decree, none shall find refuge save in him. This verily is the truth, and aught else is but manifest error. God hath made it incumbent upon all to teach his cause to the extent of their ability. Such is the decree that the finger of might and power hath recorded in the tablets of supernal glory. Whoso quickeneth but a single soul in this revelation, it is as though he had quickened all humanity. Him will God on the day of resurrection raised again to life in the paradise of his oneness, adorned with the remnant of his own self, the sovereign protector, the almighty, the all-bountiful. Such is the nature of the assistance he can render to your Lord, and not else is worthy of mention in this day, in the presence of God, your Lord, and the Lord of your sires of old. As for thee, O servant, give ear unto that which we have admonished thee in this tablet, and seek at all times the grace of thy Lord. Disseminate this tablet amongst them that have believed in God and in his signs, that they may observe its injunctions and be numbered with the righteous. Say, O people, spread not disorder on the earth, nor dispute with your fellow men for this word, for this would ill beseem them that occupy beneath the shadow of the Lord the station of such as are faithful to the one true God. Whensoever ye encounter a thirsty soul, give him to drink from the cup of everlasting life. And whensoever you find a hearing ear, recite unto him the verses of God, the powerful, the mighty, the compassionate. Unloose your tongues with kindly words, and should ye find the people inclined towards the sanctuary of God, summon them to the truth. Otherwise, leave them to their own selves, and to that condition which is the reality of the nethermost fire. Beware lest he cast the pearls of inner meaning before the blind and the barren in heart, inasmuch as they are deprived of beholding the light and are unable to distinguish the worthless pebble from the precious and gleaming pearl. Were thou for 1,000 years to recite unto stone the verses of wondrous glory, would it ever be affected by them, or comprehend their significance? Nay, by the Lord, the all-merciful, the most compassionate. Were thou to recite unto the deaf all the verses of God, would they hear a single letter thereof? Nay, by his ancient and glorious beauty. Thus have we imparted unto thee the gems of divine wisdom and utterance, that thou mayest fix thy gaze upon thy Lord, and rid thyself of all attachment to the world. May his spirit rest upon thee and upon them that abide within the habitation of holiness, and that are endued with true constancy in the cause of the Lord.
O thou seeker after truth, behold the power and greatness of Baha'u'llah. Within a short span of time, he hath stirred up the east and the west, and raised aloft in the midmost heart of the world the banner of love and harmony, of unity and peace, of fellowship and consolation, of truthfulness and rectitude. He hath freed from enmity and strife a great multitude of souls belonging to divers and opposing nations, to disparate and contending religions, and hath brought them under the sheltering canopy of fellowship, love, and unity. What power this is, and what strength! What greater proof couldst thou desire? He hath brought east and west into close embrace. Singly and alone, he hath withstood the world and uplifted his mighty cause in the most great prison, though subjected to utter abasement. He hath crowned his loved ones with the title of everlasting glory. Were one to gaze with the eyes of justice, this would be sufficient proof. Thou hast written concerning the cost of postage. Abdu'l-Baha had offered up his life for thee. How much more his earthly possessions upon thee be greetings and praise.
The tablet of visitation. Shortly after Baha'u'llah's ascension, the tablet of visitation was compiled by Nabil Azam at Abdul Baha's request from the writings of Baha'u'llah. Today, it is most often read at the shrines of Baha'u'llah and the Bab and in commemoration of the anniversaries of their passing. The praise which has dawned from thy most august self, and the glory which has shone forth from thy most effulgent beauty, rest upon thee, O thou who art the manifestation of grandeur and the King of eternity, and the Lord of all who are in heaven and on earth. I testify that through thee the sovereignty of God and his dominion and the majesty of God and his grandeur were revealed, and the day stars of ancient splendor have shed the radiance in the heaven of thine irrevocable decree, and the beauty of the unseen has shone forth above the horizon of creation. I testify, moreover, that with but a movement of thy pen, thine injunction be thou hath been enforced, and God's hidden secret hath been divulged, and all created things have been called into being, and all the revelations have been sent down. I bear witness, moreover, that through thy beauty the beauty of the adored one hath been unveiled, and through thy face the face of the desired one hath shone forth, and that through word from thee thou hast decided between all created things, causing them who are devoted to thee to ascend unto the summit of glory, and infidels to fall into the lowest abyss. I bear witness that he who has known thee has known God, and he who has attained unto thy presence hath attained unto the presence of God. Great, therefore, is the blessedness of him who hath believed in thee and in thy signs, and hath humbled himself before thy sovereignty, and hath been honored with meeting thee, and hath attained the good pleasure of thy will, and circled around thee, and stood before thy throne. Woe betide him that hath transgressed against thee, and hath denied thee, and repudiated thy signs, and gainsayed thy sovereignty, and risen up against thee, and waxed proud before thy face, and hath disputed thy testimonies, and fled from thy rule and thy dominion, and been numbered with infidels, whose names have been inscribed by the fingers of thy behest upon thy holy tablets. Waft then unto me, O my God and my beloved, from the right hand of thy mercy and thy loving kindness, the holy breaths of thy favors, that they may draw me away from myself and from the word unto the courts of thy nearness and thy presence. Potent art thou to do what pleases thee. Thou truly hast been supreme over all things. The remembrance of God in his praise, and the glory of God in his splendor, rest upon thee, O thou who art his beauty. I bear witness that the eye of creation hath never gazed upon one room like thee. Thou wast immersed all the days of thy life beneath an ocean of tribulations. At one time thou wast in chains and fetters, at another thou wast threatened by the sword of thine enemies. Yet despite all this, thou didst enjoin upon all men to observe what had been prescribed unto thee by him who is the all-knowing, the all-wise. May my spirit be a sacrifice to the wrongs thou didst suffer, and my soul be a ransom for the adversities thou didst sustain. I beseech God by thee and by them whose faces have been illumined with the splendors of the light of thy countenance, and who, for love of thee, have observed all whereunto thee were bidden, to remove the veils that have come in between thee and thy creatures, and to supply me with the good of this word and the word to come. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the most exalted, the all-glorious, the ever-forgiving, the most compassionate.
Bless thou, O Lord my God, the divine little tree and its leaves and its boughs and its branches and its stems and its offshoots, as long as thy most excellent titles will endure and thy most august attributes will last. Protect it then from the mischief of the aggressor and the hosts of tyranny. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the most powerful. Bless thou also, O Lord my God, thy servants and thy handmaidens who have attained unto thee. Thou truly art the all-bountiful, whose grace is infinite. No God is there save thee, the ever-forgiving, the most generous.
Thank you for joining us for this observance. We wish you all a spiritually fulfilling day on this occasion, the Ascension of Baha'u'llah. It is about 4 a.m. on May 29th, 2023. We hope you have, again, a spiritually fulfilling observance during this holy day. And we hope that this program is inspiration or something you may have in your own community next year. We wish you a beautiful week ahead, and as we await the next holy day, we are going to meditate today on the life of Baha'u'llah, what his message meant to us, reading a compilation called Days of Remembrance, the life of Baha'u'llah in his own words, reading a book called A Traveler's Narrative, written by Abdul Baha, and overall reflection and meditation on the significance of Baha'u'llah's message and what it means for our world today and what it means for us in our life right here, right now, what we can do moving forward. Have a beautiful afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good night.